lot of people from Oklahoma in the portal right now have entered. What do you think of some of them? Was there any you weren't expecting, or most of them you kind of were? That kind of makes sense.
Through the rumor mill, none that I wasn't not. That's a double negative. Through the rumor mill, I thought many of these were possibilities, so I wasn't caught totally off guard. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. That doesn't mean I wasn't like sad about it. So of course Nick Anderson was one that through the rumor mill you heard. I got to slow down. Through the rumor mill that you heard was a potential to leave. So sad to see that one go. Kenai Walker through the rumor mill. He's been with us a while, so always hard to see like a name that go. Josh Bates. Joshua Bates. I don't know if I should be more formal with it. Was a little more, again, like shocking, but maybe not.
Yeah.
Because he got a lot of reps this year, I was like, oh, great. There's more depth there. But Hatchet, actually, that may have been the most surprising one to me.
Really?
Maybe.
Okay.
Because
Fair.
I thought maybe because of his injury, he'd want to come back and play beat ball. But maybe, I don't know what was on the inside. So he could have been asked due to injury maybe to go. I hope not. I don't really know. Again, not insiders, not just wondering if. Also, because with the rosters having to limit spots.
I think this is kind of what you're insinuating, like kind of answering his question.
Like, right, exactly. Which ones were like processed out versus like wanting to go elsewhere. For sure. And that's what was kind of like, I was going with that with Hatchet. But wish all of them the best. Caleb Hooks wasn't a surprise. Jaquez Petaway wasn't a surprise. We've had some others go in the portal that I don't know their names. I don't mean that in a rude way, but they just weren't on the field or they were travel squad, so I just didn't know them. So I hope they find a home and they get some playing time. That would be great. What about you?
Yeah, it's kind of the same. Josh Bates is probably the one I didn't expect. I hadn't really heard it reported on any sort of the people that are beat writers and kind of do have the quote-unquote inside info. I hadn't seen that reported at all, so kind of surprising. I think it kind of means you're confident in what Everett's bringing to the table back, and I do think a couple of these guys that have injury histories, unfair, fair, are being processed a little bit because I think that they're going to try to really push signing classes and developing the offensive line through the high school ranks, and then maybe just supplementing where they absolutely have to on the offensive line. And they have a lot of guys coming back that I think have a lot of talent, especially on the left side, like we saw at the end of the season.
Strong side, sorry.
Yeah, there you go. And so nothing that really. Obviously you Jackson Arnold enters. That's the biggest name and a big loss. I just completely left
that one out. That's my fault.
Because
I feel like we've already addressed that one, but it could have been with JP and Trav. Shout out to JP and Trav.
And and I think seeing his name in there because of what you have in a guy like Mateer who hasn't declared yet. I think he's going to play in his bowl game much like Caleb Williams did and then declare after the game. I think that you are going to see you're going to probably get Hawkins in the bowl game, but then I think for Arnold and interestingly for a guy like Mateer, I think the consideration is interesting because a guy like Michael Hawkins has the talent to be as good as anybody. And if you're a guy like, if you are Mateer, obviously you can come to Oklahoma, you have the familiarity with the system, but what if you get beat out? And now you're in your third year in college and you're not starting now, and now you have a young guy behind you.
You'd be the young, yeah.
But and this is where if you're Hawkins, I would almost like if he came because you would almost have what Jackson had last year with Dylan, where Hawkins can and it's so lucky that this is what Arch has gotten to do at Texas. You get to just wait, develop. You get the luxury of always being the second string guy, not like in a pejorative way, but just the guy that always has can always be the savior, can come in like we need to play him if we need. You don't have the pressure of starting, and you get to just learn the system a whole year more and develop your body more for a whole another year.
Right.
And that kind of opportunity to me, if I was Hawkins or his group, that would be really beneficial in my opinion. But
now, if you're good enough to win the starting spot,
then win it. Yeah,
then win
absolutely.
it and go get it and take it.
And funny enough, that was always what I was most impressed by with the Trevor Knight Baker Mayfield competition they had because Trevor had just come off that game with Alabama,
right?
And it was never they were pretty clear and quick to decide on Baker, and I thought that was you got to go with the best player, and if he's the best player, you play him,
right? And then there's a level of competition. I mean, that's good. I mean, it's good for you as an athlete. It's good for a team to have someone to challenge you because if you're like this spot is mine, it's not getting taken. you might not have that same tenacity. I mean, you hope not, but
Absolutely. Yeah.
You might not. I mean, not that I think you should ever stress like a turnover, but you might not be as cognizant or have as much care if you think you can get pulled for not playing ball. Now, I also think the opposite end of that is kind of where Jackson seemed to struggle, and even Michael Hawkins when he was in at times, you're overthinking about that, and then of course it could be disastrous. But I think the competition would be great, and if may the odds be ever in the best quarterback's favor. Should we get Mateer again? That's just the rumor that you would assume he would be coming to Oklahoma, but who knows? It's portal season. It's the Hunger Games out there, so who knows?
Oklahoma has made, I think, and they probably made more. I might have missed it, but I know 2 offers: one to the Tulsa tight end, and then one to Reginald Virgil from he is from Miami of Ohio. 6'4" guy, really athletic.
Seemed to have some good numbers. It was like 850 yards.
816 on 41 catches.
16. It was off.
Top 10 nationally in yards per catch. That's kind of a misleading stat, but since it's an Oklahoma potential receiver and it's top 10, I'll repeat it. It's kind of like power football, and no one really knows the kind of. Anyways, but yeah, so deep threat. Obviously, he's a really athletic guy and someone that it seems like a athletic. Like a JJ Hester, maybe just a little better hands and whatnot, and that's never a bad thing to have guys like that on your roster.
Same size as Nick Anderson.
Yeah, and if,
similar stats. Granted, different. I hate saying different levels because it's all D1, but we know what I mean.
Yeah, for sure.
Different levels, but similar stats to what Nick had last year. So, that's interesting.
And what do we feel is the biggest need for OU?
Tight end.
Yeah, well, you're assuming. If you're assuming that most
Bauer
of the
Sharp's in the portal.
Yeah, Bauer Sharp is in the portal.
Sorry,
we were gonna get through it without mentioning it, but yeah.
Oh.
No, you're good. No, you're fine.
He's just in the portal. So I do feel like tight end would be the biggest need. I think we have some talent at tight end. Mitchell Donovan.
Donovan Mitchell.
Good, because I'm pretty sure there was a singer and a cover band that I liked, and his name was Donovan Mitchell.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I was making sure that I wasn't confusing the two, because that would have been. Pretty
good.
Funny. Great singer, by the way. Good entertainer, but not the point. Of course, we have Caden Helms. We saw a little bit of this year. Has come back from some injuries. That's again assuming that those 2 guys stay too.
Yeah.
I say we have talent in Donovan Mitchell, but we don't really know because he didn't get on the field for other reasons, is what was alluded to.
I think it was just he came out a year early.
Yeah.
And it's just such a
classroom maturity.
That and just on a physicality side, it's different when you're a receiver like obviously Ryan Williams and those guys are rarities in and of themselves, but your quickness can get you a lot on the outside, but when you're a tight end and you are guarding defensive ends at times and you're run blocking up, pulling and doing whatever you're doing, if you don't have the size, you're going to get not only you're not going to be but not only that, you're going to get hurt. And you don't want to do that to someone that young. So I think for him, it's getting the baby fat off, if you will, like the young high school weight that a lot of the you just have, and they're going to make him huge. I remember Jermaine Gresham when he went to Oklahoma. My dad was coaching; he was a defensive coordinator at Ardmore, and he was not skinny, but he wasn't what you saw running tight end for Sam Bradford. I remember he came back after that first year, and it was just it was almost weird that people could tackle someone that big. Of course, compared to me, who's just string bean and on the other side of the athletic scale than Jermaine. Maybe I never really went one-on-one against him, but we don't need to debate that now. But a guy like that I think is going to be really entertaining or really cool to see, and I think I think we only have 2 tight ends that are active, so I think they're going to have to get playing time in the bowl game.
Also, too, Caden's a good example of someone who's gotten bigger as well, because his mom had a picture up of like when he first went to OU, and it's like just a little baby Caden, and then like she obviously has recent pictures now, and is not baby Caden. No. Caden is much bigger, and I even messaged her about it one time, saying like, "Holy cow!" Like he was such a baby when he got here, and he looks totally different. So it's just wild what they can do.
It is, and
drop that. I need those muscles. Drop that routine from Smitty.
No joke. So getting a tight end for sure. If I knew. I'm going to assume we're getting most of our receivers back that were out for injury this year, and they're going to be back and be able to produce and be good to go next year. Receiver, you want to have I think a couple guys, because losing a Nick Anderson for sure is going to hurt. If you can go get a guy like I think the kid from Miami of Ohio, who's film I might point out in the on a share screen deal, we might be able to go and kind of get more talent, just more depth for sure, because we saw how quickly he can go. And then also, I want a guy that, and I know that Berrien from Kentucky doesn't have the stats. I was talking with Travis about it, but I think a guy like that that's explosive and has a knack for returning. You saw it a lot with J.T. Thatcher back when he was the Oklahoma punt returner. Guys that just Antonio Perkins, obviously, but guys that just have a knack for seeing the lanes in return game. Especially, you saw how important special teams is in the SEC championship game, right? Fake punt, you miss field goals, you have a big return on a punt. That kind of stuff is really valuable. And if you can go and get a guy like that who has experience, who has the most returns in the SEC,
like often overlooked too.
Yeah, it's huge. I mean, it's one of the three phases of the game, so you have to. But yeah, the Haas kid was committed to Oklahoma in 2021, and then ended up at Arkansas. Had injury last year. He was never 100% from some Arkansas boards I was reading. So, a risk there bringing him in. But I think with you can't miss on a guy like that who has Oklahoma ties and
right.
would want to be here, I think. And especially if he's getting a second chance, and you've seen what he's done at Arkansas. Lockdown quarter opposite of Eli. I agree. I think I hate this too, because Gentry Williams is the guy you would want. I mean, that would be the best. For my money, the best corner combo you would have in college football. Probably you would have Eli Bowen and Gentry Williams. I mean, Gentry's in his assuming health, which has been a wrong assumption so far, sadly for his career. But when he's in there, he is without a doubt one of the best in football.
Right,
and
very talented.
Yeah, and I hate that he's dealt with his shoulder injury. It's just one of those things that's just falling out on him, and hopefully he can get that worked out and it can continue to get better, because if you can have him and Eli Bowen as your corners,
fantastic.
I mean, you're talking about a defense of not even on what they have returning at safety. Obviously, you're missing, you're going to lose Billy, but to get RSJ back, and then you're going to have Boganowski and Bowen back there, I think some, and also
Jacoby.
Well, Jacoby's a corner.
He's a corner.
Yeah, and Jacoby's a good corner too. But yeah, going to get another. You can never have too many corners. They're tough to come by, and especially if you can find a guy that has, like my dad will talk about, good hips, be able to turn, stay calm. And Venables talks about this a lot. Stay calm whenever there are, whenever you get a deep pass thrown on you, you don't panic. You just turn, try to make a play on the ball, and sometimes if you're guarding Ryan Williams, they catch it anyways, and that's just. It is what it is. But
they even said it on ESPN. There's no defense for the perfect pass. So sometimes you just tip your hat and say, good job.
Defensive tackle. Interestingly enough, there's a Gabriel Brownlow-Dindy, who was a 5-star defensive tackle in the first round of recruiting that Venables had, was a Oklahoma commit. And decommitted after Venables left, and then the defensive line coach had been removed for Todd Bates to come in. He's going to be on the board. Big guy. Obviously hasn't had a lot of production at A&M, but they've also had a very deep defensive line roster. So if he can come in, a guy that has that 5-star capability, the athleticism that he'd bring, if he can just if he's taught technique and he has a couple years here, I think Todd Bates would do great things with him.
Right.
And I would that would be a guy that you could go after. And
I sent you earlier, there was an offensive lineman from Alabama that would be in the portal. He's, I have it here, 6'6", 340. He was a 4-star in the 23 class. Mm-hmm. And maybe it's shallow, but anybody who Bama wanted, I think I probably want to.
Yeah. Well, and there's also...
granted, he might already have a destination. I don't...
A&M had a offensive lineman enter the portal too. And if you can get an SEC guy with production and experience, and he doesn't have just, bad injury history, you got to go try to get it, because that's what Oklahoma needs immediately. Immediately. His solid offensive lineman. So you never have too many. And Brownlow Denny's a OU legacy as well. So that will be an interesting, I think, development.